It's good to be on SaharaTV. Oh, so we went to Maiduguri on the 13th of May and we were there for a week. What was it like? It was very stressful and tedious because there's no direct flight to Maiduguri, so you had to go through Kano or Gombe. And we were told that the best route was through Kano. And from Kano, it's about 6 hours by road to Maiduguri. It's made more tedious by the constant checkpoints. So like literally every 10 minutes there's a checkpoint, there's a checkpoint, there's a checkpoint. And we were already tense because we had made up our mind that we were going to go to Maiduguri. We had toyed about it before the kidnapping of the girls in Chibok. Because K.I.N.D has worked in Maiduguri and we were working in Maiduguri, and we stopped going there actively in 2011 in the heat of Boko Haram and because it got really dangerous for us to go. But we wanted to reconnect and reactivate what we were doing there. So by the time the girls were kidnapped, we're like, we have to go. And so we just got on a plane. We didn't make much phone calls because we didn't know, we didn't want it to, security conscious and all that, and we're like, let's go. So we were already tense. So having checkpoints at every other minute, and most of those checkpoints were they'd lean in on the car, where are you going, where are you coming from? It made us more stressed. A few of those checkpoints, they were like, they tried to make us carry passengers once or twice, or 3 times actually. At third time, we said, you know what, no, we won't carry anybody. We paid for the car and we're going. And one of the policemen were like, well, calm down, bring your ID card, let me know you and all that. And I thought, why? Because I said I wouldn't pick up somebody that you want us to carry. Is that what you are supposed to be here for? And we were just on a constant state of, you know, alert and everything. But what was probably more important also was seeing the devastation across. So from Kano, you go through Jigawa, you go through Bauchi, then Yobe. And Yobe was probably one of the most hit states, aside from Borno. And we could see some of the houses that had been bombed, some of the schools, you know, they're just right there on the road. And, you know, it was just amazing how the devastation and the things that they had to go through. Just before we entered Maiduguri, we were stopped at a checkpoint. We didn't know the procedure, and I guess probably the fact that we are not indigenous or we don't live there again, that's probably part of it. But the soldiers didn't make it any helpful. It was a military checkpoint, and they had told us to, I think they didn't like the way I spoke to them or the way I answered them. And it wasn't, it's not out of the ordinary way you would speak to anybody, like, yes, sir, can I help you? And I was like, why am I telling him that? I should get down, we should get down. I should come and register. So register where? We didn't see any table to register. We didn't see anything. Get down, you know, and when we got down, I have a problem and I wear, in the sun, I wear shades. And I was trying to put on my shades and take that off. You know, come here, you know, and we were 2 women with our driver who was from Borno. And by then, of course, I could almost pee in my pants because I was like, you know, we don't know what's going on here. When it was very clear that they just wanted to really, really harass us, okay, you know what, this is not it. I have a brother-in-law who is in the military, and I said, let me call him. And so I was like, get off that phone, cut off that call. You know, yelling at us, shouting at us, bring your bag, let's check, you know, checking the car, checking the tire, checking the engine. You know, we didn't, and they were shouting at us from both sides. We didn't know, we were confused at a point in time. At a point, you know, I said, you know, I can't deal with this. I started in the car and I said, whatever you wanted to do, I really don't know what's going on. And at that point in time, it hit me that, you know what, I know my rights. I am fairly educated. Well, I'm actually very educated, and I know my rights, and you can't talk to me that way. Of course, I know we're in a state of high alert. I know we're in a state of, but there's a way that, you know, and I thought, if they're doing this to me, who is, how much more people that don't even know? And it got me thinking there and then. It was a little while before we were able to leave there. Eventually, one of the, probably the oldest soldiers or most senior soldier, not officer, came and was quite apologetic. My brother-in-law told me, oh, what were their names and what was their battalion or tag and everything. And I looked at all, and I didn't see any. So none of them had tags on, none of them had names on, none of them had anything that you can use to identify them. And again, that got me thinking that, you know, this is not right. We met with several organizations. Again, that was the objective, to meet with different organizations based in Maiduguri, in Borno State, to see, to assess what is going on. We were hearing different things from different places, and from the media, from people. We wanted to see, number one, we wanted to hear from the people that were affected, and we wanted to also know what it was that we could do, something practical, something immediate that we can do to support, to help our brothers and sisters in the north. It was a wonderful visit because we saw different organizations, the widows organizations, FIDA, some grassroots-based organizations. And of course, they were able to tell us and suggest different issues on what we can tackle. We also saw some survivors, I like to call them, of the insurgency. Now, what was interesting about these survivors were they were crimes against that were committed to them was committed by the soldiers, not Boko Haram. And I gathered that this was done a few years ago. So one woman in particular, they had come to their neighborhood. I wouldn't mention it because, again, I want to protect them. But they had come to their neighborhood because, ironically, a few years ago, 3 years ago, Boko Haram was concentrated in that particular, in pockets in Maiduguri town. And they had come to that neighborhood, and I think it was after a raid on the military or on the security forces. And so, of course, the security forces came out en masse. And it wasn't a case of investigation, it was annihilation, it was decimate, it was desecrate, it was just, you know, they went into that place and started pulling out men, women, shooting. They raped a few of them, a few of these people. And one woman in particular, I mean, she came into that meeting and she didn't look up. I mean, she couldn't, I mean, we greeted all of them. It's just, I knew she had a story to tell, and I couldn't wait to hear what that story was. And they had killed her son in front of her. They had killed her husband as well. And after that, they threw their bodies on her and threw her in a truck. Another young girl was raped, and after she was raped, she was stomped on. Till date, she still has chest pains and she hasn't received medical care. And it was interesting to see or to hear from them their strategy of dealing with it. They said the Civilian Joint Task Force came up as a result of trying to deal with the military, not necessarily Boko Haram. They succeeded in pushing Boko Haram out of Maiduguri town. Now, ironically, I would have thought strategically you would secure your borders, or you would secure your towns outside. That wasn't done. And they settled nicely, comfortably in the south. So Bama, Chibok, Koshe, you know, those places that are outside, they are 2.5 hours and more away from Borno, away from Maiduguri. And they come and go at will. It's a question that we asked that, you know, why wasn't that place secured? Or obviously you would know now, you would know if you are pushing them out of town, you would know that, okay, let us, you know, let's do this. But I don't know, the answers we got were not very, were not very clear. But we understand that a lot has gone in terms from the Borno State government and probably from the federal government, but there's some mix-up somewhere. And a lot of soldiers have died. A lot of military personnel, a lot of police, they've died. Also, there's a lot of casualty on civilians as well. Long and short of it is a lot of people have died. And the Borno State government told us how they were trying to compensate a lot of families of those who have been killed. What we also saw and heard from the organizations that we met, and even people that we spoke to, is maybe there is a system, or maybe there's a method to the madness, but we didn't see that in the sense that, oh, there's one database source where we know how many people were killed in this community and we have their names. So we have Mrs. X or Hajia X, who her child was killed, her husband was killed, her house was burnt down. Many of these women that we saw, and this happened 2 years ago or 3, they are still living in houses that were burnt down. No roof, maybe a zinc for a roof. They're sleeping on maybe like 6 or 7 in a small room because they burnt down the other room. There's no school in that area. Most of the schools are closed. Most of the schools are closed, period. They were closed even before Chibok incident. But we were made to understand that just because of the exams, that's why that particular school was open. And it wasn't just people who were living in Chibok. It was the other communities. So it's like a cluster of schools, and they will close all the other clusters and everybody comes to this one school, which will explain the numbers that they had. And it was just for the exams. After that, they were told to go home. Even in Maiduguri town, schools are closed. And it's only those who are writing exams or private schools. On the outskirts of town, or different, the woman told us their children haven't gone to school, they don't even know. What do your children do? They wake up in the morning, they carry barrow, and they're around, hanging around. Of course, those are the next, you know. I mean, an idle mind is an idle mind, you know. We're told that Maiduguri has a high rate of unemployment, very high rate of unemployment. We were also told, and this was from a source, that they have a high drug problem. But again, these are stories that don't come out, that you don't hear. But I think what was also happening about the visit was the whole idea of the Civilian Joint Task Force. The Commissioner of Justice told us that they plan to recruit and train them like they do NYC, and of course empower them in different ways. So for example, they've just finished, as at last month, they had finished a batch of 1,000, which comprises of both men and women. We were told that afterwards, if they want to join other security forces, maybe they want to join the military or the police, or you know, they want to become nurses, they are going to be, there's a pipeline for them to go to these different places. We're also told about the governor's plan of doing some sort of agricultural scheme. At that point in time, we were not very interested in that, but it was also interesting to know that they're thinking in that level, in that way. We met with the First Lady as well, pleasant lady, but at that point in time, we didn't really, she's committed to creating some sort of change and helping her people. And so we discussed a little bit, which I will not discuss what we discussed right now, but let's just say that Borno needs all the help that it can get. Well, in truth, I think that it's not something that people want to, the Northeast, the North in general, there are indicators in terms of education, in terms of employment. It's very abysmal. For example, we trained 2 girls. K.I.N.D normally, when we were active in Maiduguri, we used to train girls in university on leadership skills, providing them opportunities and platforms for them to become whatever it is they want to become, whether it's business, politics, and things like that. And we trained these 2 girls, I think probably in 2006 and 2007. They both graduated and they still haven't gotten jobs since they graduated. And we asked them, why? Why is that, why haven't you gotten jobs? In Maiduguri, you're either a civil servant or you're an entrepreneur, and whatever entrepreneur means to different you might not be what it means to them. Maiduguri is also a very high trade kind of route. So Chad, Cameroon, they go in and go out, Kanu, Jigawa, you know, that's what they work. And the other type of activity is farming or fishing. They also have fishing. Now, many of these places have been cut off. They have been, I think they were targeted. Many of their shops have been burnt. Many of their source of livelihood has been, in effect, hindered and stopped. We're told how one town in particular, they had like truckloads of goods, fish and things, and Boko Haram set fire to all of them, almost 30 trucks. So you can imagine that, you know, the devastation and targeting their source of livelihood. This is more recent, but it has been happening for a while. So either you're a civil servant, you have your own business, and that is it. Or you are farming and probably subsistence farming, or, you know, industries. They don't have industries. They don't have those kind of things that we see here in the Southwest that you try to make it. And I guess that is probably why the unemployment rate is really high. Now, they also have their Sangaya schools, Almajiri schools. I wouldn't want to bring, religion is a key part of it, I guess, but I also wouldn't want to say, oh, it's because they have Almajiri schools that they are unemployed. I think the government of Borno is trying its best to inculcate and incorporate schools like that. They've built modern schools, Shangaya schools, trying to inculcate their curriculum, and so build the people's sense of these schools that we're giving our children or sending our children to is actually doing something. But again, the crisis that has happened has been happening for over 6 years. And all that put together, I mean it's a conundrum of, you don't even want to know how it's happening. But it is high. We were told that there's a certain area that you go to that they just hang out, they drink cough medicine, they smoke wee-wee, and if you go there, bottles and bottles of cough medicine. I'm thinking cough medicine, really? Or glue, and things like that. But again, these are things that they don't exist in isolation. So you can't say, oh, Boko Haram, then this, or unemployment. Everything is connected. And sometimes we don't connect the dots, and I think that is a problem. If there are a lot of young people who are, and young people make up 70%, there are young people that are working the streets, they don't have employment, they don't have a sense of, my life is going somewhere. Of course, they are going to be susceptible to different things. That's all I'm saying.